That's a very cool space. Thanks for sharing your garden with us. Now we're going to get ready for fall and perennial planting. We're joined by Nathan Unclebach from Hill Country Water Gardens and Nursery. It's great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Great, great. Well, fall is a great time to plant. Why do we focus on fall for perennial planting?
In Texas, we gotta plan around our summers. Our summers are brutal, and we want to get 3 seasons of growth before they see that 110 degrees and no rain.
Right. Yeah, get the roots in the ground in as gentle a time as possible. In the fall, typically we get a little bit of rain, and of course the cooler temperatures make a huge difference. So it's a great time for planting, and you've brought an assortment of different things that people can think about right now for getting in the ground, and some unusual things that are going to withstand the brutal summers that we have had. The first one I'm very unfamiliar with. You're calling it African Hasta. I'm assuming just from the look of it, it's a shade lover.
It absolutely needs shade. Gorgeous little perennial plant from South Africa. It's not a true Hasta.
It's in another plant family.
Yeah.
And
little white blooms on it.
White blooms. And the blooms, you say, have a particular look, tall. Is it, how do they get tall?
Looks like a white hyacinth.
Okay.
A little tiny hyacinth.
That's great. And so I'm assuming if we're recommending it, this is going to be a pretty tough plant.
Oh, totally. Right now in our gardens, it looks like a champ. It hasn't given up anything to the heat or the drought. We're barely watering it at all.
Okay, so great dry shade plant. Quick drainage, I'm assuming?
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be too picky about the soil.
Okay.
Just whatever you can give it. I've never rotted one.
Okay.
I've never killed one from no water.
Okay.
So,
well, that's
really tough.
That sounds great. And does it colonize? That's the last question.
Yeah, definitely. This is one that's fun. You can rip it right up out of the ground, almost throw it on the dirt, step on it, and it'll start growing again.
Okay, love that kind of plant. We want those kind of plants that are going to colonize corners of our garden and take up space, and that we can share with our neighbors when they do get overabundant. So that's great. African Hasta. And looks like a champion, and I loved the idea of having a plant with that Hasta-like look that will actually perform here. Now, you've brought a couple of other things. Let's talk about these before we move too much further. Absolutely love these new Yuccas that have come in the past few years with all the color in the leaves. This is one called Tiny Star. Tell me a little bit about this.
Tiny Star is my all-time favorite Yucca. It is a small Yucca. Takes a little while to grow. Everybody that's got smaller yards, not a lot of space for these giant spiky Yuccas and agaves, this is a great choice. And the yellow variegation gives nice contrast.
Yeah, I have a very similar form of Yucca at home. I have it in a cobalt blue ceramic pot, and that yellow against the blue is really beautiful. And I water it maybe once a week during the summertime, but maybe once or twice a month at other times.
Yeah.
Great little plant. So this is and there are a lot of new forms of these, and I highly recommend them to folks out there. Now, this is one I'm really excited about and don't know anything about. This is Peter's Purple Bee Balm. And when I look at it, and when I first looked at it, I thought it kind of looks like a lantana, but of course it has a very smooth leaf as opposed to the lantana.
Right. This little guy will quickly shoot up. It's a hybrid of 2 natives and loves Texas. The progeny's stronger than the parents. You're looking at like a 4-foot tall, maybe 3-foot wide, just phenomenal explosion of pink colors in late spring. Good sun, good drainage. It's a water once a week kind of plant.
And this is you said good sun. Okay. So and when you say good drainage, I'm thinking to myself, let's say maybe granite sand to the mix. All right. And great wildlife plant, right?
Oh, for sure. Tracks almost everything to it. Bees love it. I mean, that's where Bee Balm.
Bees and butterflies, I think. Great plant. So for those who are looking for something that's really rugged and want an alternative to Salvia greggii, this might be just the thing, right?
Sure, absolutely.
All right. Well, you know, there's so much going on in the fall. People get distracted. As soon as the first cool weather hits, people want to do something in the garden. One of the things I do want to talk about, before we move on and talk about these other plants, is soil preparation. Let's spend just a moment talking about your ideal. If you're visiting with somebody who's maybe new to the area, about getting the right things into the soil in preparation for the planting, what do you tell them?
Compost. Compost. Maybe some, if you're a little bit clay, some granite sand mixed in to kind of break up. No real sand, but compost.
Yeah.
It's almost the magic bullet for everything.
Right, right. So turning it into whatever soils you have. In the hill country, it's difficult to turn anything in sometimes.
Yeah, in the hill country, we don't try. We just pile it on top and plant in that.
Right. You even make the attempt to loosen the top layer, or?
If you're feeling up to it that day.
If you're feeling masochistic that day, go ahead, go for it, guy, right? Go loosen that soil.
Yeah.
Well, that would be an ideal, I would think, is to have a transition zone, of course. But you're right, raised bed gardening in the hill country for lots of different things, perennials, etc. It's the best way to go.
Right.
All right. Well, we'll continue down talking about some cultural practices in a bit. But I want to show people a few more plants. New Zealand flax has really caught on as a kind of a mainstay of Austin gardening over the past 10 years. I can see why with this particular plant, because it's got such bold form and it's very bright. And this is another shade lover, right?
I've heard it will take some sun. I've had morning sun on it, afternoon sun on it. I've never put it out in the full sun, but in the full shade, brightens up the area.
Right.
Tough as nails. Our irrigation broke in one bed this summer. I didn't know it. It wouldn't turn on. And you know, the other plants are crashing around it, and it doesn't know the difference.
Okay, well, we like the sound of that. Has a bloom as well.
It does have a little bloom. It's not the sexiest bloom I've ever seen ever, but it's
not
cool.
a real show. It's ethereal. It's very light, tiny little blooms on a long spray, if you will. And I think it's an attractive color, too. So New Zealand flax for the shade, great choice, and makes a great counterpoint to almost anything in the shade. So the plant next to it, I've heard of this for a long time, skeleton leaf GoldenEye daisy. And I've never gardened with it, but I've heard rave reviews.
I bought probably 5 of them just for fun, had heard about it, threw them in the ground, walked away. A couple years later, everything is just dying, and this thing is going nuts. It's a nice 4-foot evergreen, kind of fuzzy-looking shrub.
Okay,
but just
so
puts
evergreen.
on spring and fall flowers, little daisies. Highly recommend a little bit of trimming just to keep it
full,
shaped nice.
Right. Yeah.
But I like them unshaped. It's really loose and kind of majestic looking.
Well, it's got the skeleton leaf is a very good description of it, because it's got that kind of pattern to it, if you will, of a very nice light texture. And who doesn't love a plant that doesn't require any care, doesn't need that much water, and will endure the Texas summer?
Right.
You know?
And highly adaptable to our soils.
Okay, so either clay or caliche.
As long as it's just not holding too much water, it's happy.
Okay, so again, raised beds, great situation, and if you're in clay, again, granite sand. Right next to that is a plant that takes similar cultural requirements, I think. That's the Gopher Plantain. It's a euphorbia. Tell me a little bit about this. This
thing is awesome. Just beautiful green, gray-green foliage. I love that contrast in the garden. The euphorbias are cactuses, big family, and all of them are just super low maintenance. Great flowers in February, late February, early March, and a fun plant too. You can cut the older bloom stalks after they finish blooming and stick those back in the ground and they'll root, and you can pass them along.
Again, that's a great plant. I like the form on this one. And it reminds me of bottle brush. It has that kind of a look. But that gray-green color is something that, I think everybody in Texas loves in the garden, in part because it's usually an indicator that it's a survivor, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of gray-green, we have a beautiful silver green coming up next, and this is the silver peso Sephora or mountain laurel. And it's a shrub that is, I've gardened with in the past, and just terrific plant.
Yeah. To me, it's kind of the holy grail of plants. I love this thing. I dream about this plant. That nice silver foliage, again, an indicator that it's built for Texas, and the dark purple blooms in the spring is just, I've never seen anybody walk up to it and flower and not have their jaw drop.
Yeah.
It's just gorgeous.
Everybody is familiar with the mountain laurel here in Central Texas, the Sephora. But this one has the color is deeper, and set against that silver foliage is really spectacular. I can't remember, it does have that same strong fragrance, right?
That I've noticed.
Yeah, okay. Just a terrific plant, and again, woody plants or perennials, this is a great time for planting.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, the next plant we have is a Manfreda, and this is again a real trooper for us here in Central Texas. This is a form that I'm unfamiliar with. What is the name of this one?
This one, for years, we called Merlot, and I think everybody's now calling it spotted leopard.
Spotted leopard. Well, that makes sense.
And the more sun, the more spots it gets.
Okay. And this is one I've played with in sun and shade.
Yes.
And it seems to do just fine in either one.
Does not care.
Yeah.
Does not care. You will see in the shade the spots start to lighten a little bit. Maybe sometimes even kind of cool. It'll turn silver instead of purple.
Okay.
The spot.
Well, they throw up really big bloom spikes. And what are the flowers like on this one? Because there's a lot of variation in the blooms on these.
There are. The one in my yard tends to be green, the flower, with a little bit of red when it opens.
Okay. Well, they're kind of alien-looking flowers. They're really beautiful. The forms are really unique. And the plant itself also has a little bit of an alien look. But it's a great touch. It provides a kind of an exotic touch, I think, in the garden. Real briefly, another plant that you brought is the Almond Verbena, and I would assume it has an almond fragrance?
Absolutely, absolutely. I love this one. Every time I walk by it, brush it, it smells like my wife's hair. So I'm constantly reminded. I love it. It's a small tree for sun, a little bit of shade.
All right. Well, Nathan, I know that you at Hill Country Water Gardens and Nursery, you always have lots of educational opportunities for people to come out and learn about the plants and water features and so much more. So we really appreciate you taking the time now to come in and share these great plants and some expertise about getting them in the ground.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. And coming up next, we're going to check in with John Dromgoole for Backyard Basics.